you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K,
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Monday, September the 23rd. The Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. How's everyone doing? We're running a little bit late. Sorry about that. Without further ado, why don't I bring in from Canadian Press and the Balls Round Podcast, Elias Grigoriadis, who's going to
You're becoming a natural now.
I'm becoming a natural now. Now I sound like a real Greek. Grigoriadis. Ticanes. Sí.
I'm doing all right. So CF Montreal. So
LRA. Hey. Hello to all our Greek friends and to all our friends out there that are watching. CF Montreal needed to take care of business, Elias, on Saturday night versus Frank Lopez's Chicago Fire, and they definitely did. Big win, 2-0.
Absolutely, and it almost felt like also a little bit of expunging some demons, given that their loss in Chicago was what kind of led to that really rough run after such a good start to the season. After losing Chicago in that. In such a bizarre way, they go one win in the next 13 games, and you kind of see the position they're in now. So I think that also must have done a lot of good to kind of just get that back and maintain your form. Oh, Tony, you're muted.
I am, but is my mic on? Are you hearing me good?
Oh yeah, you sound great.
All right, okay, because I thought when I came in there was a little bit of a mic issue. All right, okay, good. We fixed everything then. Fantastic. Why don't we get to the starting 11 on Saturday night for CF Montreal? Sirois in goal, a back line of Corbo, Campbell, and Alvarez. Saliba and Piet right in front of the back line with Marshall Ruddy, a right wing back, Edwards, a left wing back, Duke, and Clark right in behind Joseph Martinez, a 3-4-2-1 for Laurent Courtois' side. Let's bring in the subs. Breza, of course, is your backup keeper. Pierce, Yankov, Waterman, Opoku, Ibrahim, Sosa, Kokaru, Bugai. Any surprises for you there?
Not really. Happy to see that Waterman is again fit enough to be included in the squad because he's obviously super important. But look, you have that performance against Charlotte where you manage the game so well at home and you get the chance to rotate in New England and still get a result. I'm not surprised to see that. Him basically copy-paste that starting 11.
The Sim Podcast CF Montreal Talk is brought to you in part by our partners, one of which is Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for hot summer days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. It's available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. All right, so for a second game in a row, Victor Wanyama doesn't make the 18. Or 20 or whatever it is, but he doesn't make the starting lineup and doesn't even make the bench. And I think you and I talked about this, but you expect Victor Wanyama's season to be finished with CF Montreal. You think that's it, huh?
I think so. I think this is more of a formality now, and maybe it was an inclusion in the squad over the past however many games out of, was it maybe a sign of respect or just just in case? But at the end of the day, when was the last time Victor Wanyama got any actual minutes, right? So at this point, you have to balance respecting a club legend and a legend of the game and also having someone in your limited amount of bench spots that realistically will not be getting minutes.
Laurent Courtois was asked about it at the end of the game and said, hey, can we look back at that chat that you had with Wanyama last week? Were you basically telling him that he wasn't going to be in the lineup anymore and he wasn't going to make the bench and that was it? And he said, well, we talked about a lot of things. Yeah, but did you talk about him not being in the lineup in New England and maybe not even tonight? And he said, yeah, well, that's something to that effect. Yes, it's some of the things that we talked about. So Wanyama out. If you take a look at last game versus New England, the one that they played on the road, of course. So Biello and Vilsaint out and Sosa and Waterman make the bench. Those were the changes that you saw for CF Montreal. Okay. Laurent Courtois was also asked at the end of the game, Coach, same 11 as the Saturday of the week before versus Charlotte. Is it safe to say that these are your starting 11? And he said something to the effect of, I think you can say that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Look, at the end of the day, at home is where you're going to get the majority of your points. That's just a staple of MLS. That's just a fact of the league you're in. And you need to have your best foot forward with the best performing 11. It's kind of hard to argue against any particular player in that 11 right now. Even, Bryce Duke has been hot and cold all season, but the combination he's got with Caden Clark, I think, bolsters his spot in that roster. And Mahalo Poku's probably going to give him a good run for his money with the form he's in, and the substitute cameo that he gave. But at the end of the day, there's nobody in that starting 11 from Saturday night that you could argue shouldn't be in a starting 11 right now.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, I think what you said is fair. Duke hasn't blown anyone away, but 1 week ago versus Charlotte, he was the man of the match. Clark played well. He had a good game, and so did Saliba. I talked about that. I think you could say the same thing for this Saturday night again, right? I think Clark played well. I think so did Saliba. I understand your point. The one thing that I will say in Caden Clark, it's starting to pay dividends. We'll get to Caden Clark in a second, but he's starting to play real good soccer for CF Montreal. Marshall Ruddy hasn't convinced thus far. Not me anyway. A right wing back, and once again, maybe he will eventually, but Caden Clark has, but Marshall Ruddy so far has not.
It's tough comparing him to Juan because Juan is such a powerful runner, whereas Marshall Ruddy has a bit more elegance, if you will, to his game. But yeah,
we haven't seen
Juan
it yet.
Who can pick the ball up and just take off and really just command that entire flank. I do like the partnership that he's kind of developing with George Campbell. The two of them do look good together, but I agree with you, right? This combination and this technicality that he brings to the game, it's all good and well, but when you're playing wing back, you do need to get up the pitch. You do need to get in those advanced areas and cause some real danger, because at the end of the day, playing in the middle is it helps the build up, but if you're going to try and break down a low block and that entire flank is inconsistent, then that's a major problem.
I need you to think about this for a second. When Matthew Chouanière was here, he played 5 different positions, right? We saw him play 6, we saw him play 8, we saw him play 10, we saw him play left wing back, we saw him play right wing back. No matter where he played, we say, yeah, he looks pretty good. I would say out of those 5 positions, was probably a little bit less comfortable as a 10 out of all of them. Just my opinion. But when we saw him as a wing back, we would say, yeah, you know what? He's good. He helps the team. But I thought he was most comfortable as an 8. And I see the same exact thing, I think, for Marshall Ruddy. I think Marshall Ruddy is an 8. I don't think he's a wing back. And I know that there's some teams that have actually seen him as a wing back. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see it right now just yet. And, you talked about Juan. Juan brought something to CF Montreal that Marshall Ruddy hasn't been able to bring yet. Yes, because of his pace and because of his cardio and his stamina and all that stuff. Yes. But once again, Marshall Ruddy, I haven't seen it yet. But we'll get back to Marshall Ruddy a little bit later, because let's try and actually talk about the positives. Once again, Caden Clark, a big-time positive. Nathan Saliba, who scored a fantastic goal in New England. What a fantastic pass to Joseph Martinez. I brought it up with Courtois at the end of the game. I said, you had a chat with Saliba as well. Was something said? Because ever since Saliba scored that goal in New England, it's a fantastic goal, and it's a fantastic pass. This is the most comfortable I've seen Saliba since he got here.
Yeah, and I agree with you with that, but at the same time, and this may also be him starting to become a victim of past performances, I don't think he played as well as he could have against on Saturday night. I don't think he could have dominated. Chicago basically abandoned the midfield, and I tweeted about this at halftime. They essentially abandoned the midfield. They said, we're going to lock down the flanks. We're going to drop our midfield super deep to worry about Duke and Clark. And that basically gave Bittt and Saliba free license to turn and drive the ball forward. And I've tried to avoid the Saliba Chouanière comparisons because A, he's 4 years younger than him, and B,
They're different players.
they're just different players. Exactly, right? I don't think Chouanière can do some of the stuff Saliba does, and vice versa. So, but games like this is the one time I'll allow myself to make that comparison, because games like this, especially last season, are games that Mathieu Chouanière absolutely dominated in receiving the ball in that space, driving forward, and making the entire game subject to his will. And again, Nathan Saliba is 20 years old. So this is more so him being, again, a victim of his recent performances, but that's the next level for him. Because games like this, he should be absolutely running. Him and Bittt looked great today, on Saturday, but games like that, he's got to have, 10 progressive carries. He's got to be bringing the ball forward. He's got to be applying extra pressure. These are games where you have to get hungry and go, this is my game to take over now, because you're letting me do it.
Yeah, and
You're coming off that game
right.
in New England, you have to kind of double down with that, maybe a little bit of selfishness and be, Sam, cover me because I'm doing the heavy lifting tonight.
Well, look, New England had Carlos Hill in the middle, obviously, but versus Chicago, you're right. It's not like they had a big time middle, and it could have been a little bit better, but the pass, I mean, ultimately, look, the first goal ends up being your game-winning goal. Okay, they end up winning by a score of 2-0. That's your game-winning goal. That pass, the way he lobbed it over everyone, the way he saw Martinez make his run, the way he was able to put it within, inches of him or next to him. He went back a little bit. He got it, but it was the way the ball, instead of jumping away from Martinez, actually settled in and came back. I thought it was a fantastic touch. And you saw that when he started in the MLS, obviously it's the best league that he had ever played, and then it went a little bit fast for him. And so he didn't have that time and that space to be able to do things. Now the time and the space, he's starting to get in tune with everything. It's all starting to settle down and slow down for him.
Especially since he came back from the national team, I feel like his long passing has gone so good, and he's been breaking lines on the ground and in the air. Excellent. And I think, honestly, if he keeps this up, by the time 2026 rolls around and the World Cup rolls around, Jesse Marsch has a really tough decision ahead of him in terms of that midfield, because that midfield is starting to look absolutely stacked, and Nathan Saliba is elbowing his way into that conversation very quickly at the speed that, maybe not as fast as Ismail Kone, but very close to that kind of ascension.
You're basically saying you think he's going to be able to take Eustachio's spot?
Absolutely not, but I think he's definitely going to make Jesse Marsch think about, maybe I need a 3-man midfield. If I have this much talent in the midfield, maybe I need 3 players in there. And soon he's going to be competing with Mathieu Chouanière for that, third role in the depth chart, because I think Eustachio and Kone right now
they're pretty locked in right now. But that
third spot, if Nathan Saliba at his age, and again in 2 years' time, when he starts to elbow his way into that conversation, and he's probably going to he could end up being an all-star and earning links from European clubs. That's a genuine conversation that Jesse Marsch has to have.
He's going to want to leave for Europe at the end of the year, or at the very latest the next year, if he wants to be in that conversation, right? He's going to get called up to camp and stuff like that. He already did, and he'll get called again. But of course, you talked about Kone plays in Ligue 1 France, and Eustachio plays in Liga 1 Portugal. And he's going to have to end up playing in Europe if he wants to get in that conversation. Now, there are players that were playing in the MLS and they got in that conversation, and then they moved to Europe, and then they further cemented themselves. But I think, I wouldn't be surprised if he sold at the end of the season. I wouldn't. Now, if CF Montreal holds off one more year, they'll be able to sell him for more, because next year, as every year goes on, of course, he's going to end up being more comfortable and he's going to be better. But it's definitely something to look forward to. The chip by Caden Clark, the goal, right? The pass from Mahalo Opoku, and Caden Clark chips it. What a chip, eh?
You gotta have a set on you to. You have to have some confidence. And he talked about after the game, right? Just the fact that he's feeling better than he's ever felt, and that's what the confidence of a coach will do for you. right? You get in, you're in the doghouse in your old club. You get into a new club, and immediately the coach goes, "You're my guy." How can you not be smiling constantly and enjoying your football? So hey, you know what? He keeps on paying it back, and then some. And he's starting to look like one of the biggest bargains of the season in the league, not just for Montreal's window, but he's looking one of the biggest bargains in the MLS transfer window.
The Sick Podcast brought to you by our partners, one of which is Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. They are CF Montreal season ticket holders. My buddy Dave Grassi, I usually see him at some of their games. And, of course, they're a top fleet employer, and Forbes has them as one of the top transport companies in the country to work for. So check out their website, Google Ship Energy, and you'll be able to log on to their website and get all the information for a career at Energy Transportation Group. All right, okay. Caden Clark, let's hear from him, because I asked him at the end of the game, I said to him, I said, that chip, that goal takes a lot of confidence, takes a little bit of courage. Someone even tried in PlayStation. Just how high is your confidence right now? Do you got all your mojo back? And how good has this trade to Montreal been for you? Let's hear from Caden Clark.
About it, he's like, what are you doing differently, this and that? It's nothing. It's my mindset, really. I think it's staying calm and just trusting yourself. I think in Minnesota it was tough for me. It was really tough. The coach was asking 10,000 different things from me and right back, and that was my struggle. I think it's always been me to be in these situations and just trusting yourself, and now we're getting some momentum.
Going off of that, what does Laurent ask you to do, and how does his maybe coaching here helps you to get this great start with Montreal?
Yeah, he just gives me freedom and trust. I think I've worked hard to earn that, but he's given it back to me, and now it's paying off for both of us. And I think it's just the trust and the freedom, and not asking me to be in this spot at this time. He's trusting me in my play style to really manipulate players and to play my own game. So I really, really appreciate that, and hopefully it'll keep working going forward.
Hi, Caden. You said trust yourself, trust Laurent, but also trusting your teammates, obviously, with the chemistry with Bryce, with Joseph, even with Jaquil, who's a newcomer also. Just talk to me about this chemistry between you guys on the team.
Yeah, it's I've never had more fun playing in a team, to be honest with you. It doesn't feel like we're playing a professional game. Like, it really, I look forward to games every time now. I look forward to getting in the attacking third and making plays happen. I feel like I'm in a backyard playing soccer. So it's really a joy for me to be around these guys. And hopefully this is a late season run that we can make the playoffs.
Isn't that something, Caden Clark there, first of all, settling a score, right, with his coach? It wasn't easy for me in Minnesota, but played for a coach that asked 10,000 different things from me. Boom, settles a score right there. But then says, Laurent Courtois gives me freedom and trust. And now, isn't that a nice thing to hear? And I have to say this, Courtois, there's been some ups and downs. And we know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get this team to play like, Wilfred Nancy's team played at some point, the playing out of the back and all that stuff, trying to get it to play a ball possession style. They don't always have the ball possession numbers, but then again, they don't have the best horses in the league either. But it's starting to come around here, okay? It's a week where they picked up 7 of 9 points. It still wasn't overly convincing, but they still had to go out and do it, and they did it. And Clark really added, when he says, you know what? I don't feel like I'm playing like a pro soccer game. I feel like I'm having fun in the park and the pressure's off. And he looks that way. And players want to have that kind of freedom, especially when you're a number 10, when you're playing right behind the striker. They hope to get that kind of freedom from their coach. And look how much better Clark is right now than he was with Minnesota. Look, if he says it, I believe it. I think Courtois deserves some credit for that.
100%. And look, not even at a professional, even an elite level, anyone who's ever played any level of sports, that when you're in a good run of form, you're enjoying yourself, it doesn't feel like work, and you actively look forward to it, right? When you are in a bad run of form, you're almost looking at the next game with a little bit of dread. And I asked Joseph Martinez about this, and he kind of maybe reinforced my point a little bit. I feel like, especially when things were at their worst, everyone was putting so much pressure on one another. And call it naivete, call it youthful exuberance, call it and whatever you like. But a lot of the younger players came in and just brought a little bit more carefree. And it looked like they just started enjoying. And look, as a team, it felt contagious, and just everyone started enjoying their football a bit more. And Laurent Courtois insists that he hasn't really changed anything, but I do think that he's seeing that and he's letting them play more. Right? When things are going poorly as a coach, you're like, okay, I have to do something. But sometimes maybe just taking a step back is more effective and letting people play their game. And look, I mean, it's paying for itself right now. And since their international break, they're unbeaten, 7 points in 9 games.
And I asked Elias, I asked Courtois at the end of the game, I mean, what have you done there? Like the turnaround, like when they lost 5-0 and they lost 4-1, let's be honest. No one thought they were going to make the playoffs, and they're not there yet either, by the way. We'll get to the standings in just a second, but they're a couple of points behind Philadelphia, who's in the 9th spot for the final play-in spot. And you know what? No one gave them a chance at all. And he said, well, nothing's changed. We're doing everything that we did before. Nothing's changed. Well, the chemistry is obviously getting better with the newly acquired players, right? With more games, more reps that they're getting in, there's more and more chemistry. Also, he didn't really specify all that much, but, Samuel Bittt has talked to us about some of the team building and the guys going karting and the guys getting together and stuff like that and going to, being part of that fundraiser for the foot golf. It's helped. I really think it's helped because they were cliquey and they're less cliquey right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, at the end of the day, on the field, off the field, the second you enjoy life with your team even a little bit more, it's going to pay off. And look, I mean, it's not going to last forever. Obviously, the reality of the MLS season and the reality of football is going to set in, and they're going to have to go through some harder moments too. But you have to kind of hold on to this. And, the leaders of this team have done a good job in kind of getting morale back up, getting everybody on the same page, getting everybody to start playing together. And they have to keep doing this now. It has to keep going because, look, Laurent Courtois, like you said, and like he said repeatedly now for the last couple of weeks, he's not doing anything different. So now it's up to the players to show up motivated, excited, and at the end of the day, just enjoy what they're doing. Because again, they're playing a game, right? They just have to enjoy it.
The Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk, is brought to you in part by Playground. Discover a world of luxury at Playground. Explore their 30,000 square foot expansion with thrilling games, gourmet dining, and live entertainment located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. Playground. Experience the strip without the trip. If we can get to the timeline, then let's bring it up. Shane Gaumont on master control. There you have it. Martinez on a pass from Saliba after 21 minutes of play. Campbell was yellow carded at the 40th. At halftime, there's some substitutions, or one substitution from Chicago, none from Montreal. They make another substitution at the 68 and one at the 69. Finally, for Montreal, some substitutions. Coccaro comes in for Martinez at the 72nd. Opoku comes in for Duke. Waterman comes in for Campbell. All three made at the same time to give some fresh legs when they needed it. And a couple of minutes after those substitutions were made, Opoku finds Caden Clark, who chips it over the keeper to make it 2-0. And Yankov came in for Clark, and Pierce came in for Bittt at the 89th. And by that time, it was never in doubt. CF Montreal win by a score of 2-0. Let's bring up the table, the standings. Toronto FC, who lost in Colorado, they have 36 points. So do Philadelphia. Philly's got a game in hand on Toronto FC. Montreal, 30 games, 34 points. Isn't that something? Montreal's 2 points behind Philly, 2 points behind Toronto, but Toronto's played a game more. Atlanta's got a point less than Montreal, same amount of games. Nashville, a point less than Montreal, same amount of games. DC United, a point less than Montreal, same amount of games. Don't look now. I know they're not in, but with the San Jose Earthquakes being CF Montreal's next opponent on Saturday night in Montreal, Montreal have put themselves in a nice position, not to mention that don't Philly play Atlanta next week?
They do play Atlanta next week.
Somebody's dropping points. Mind you, Montreal will play Atlanta between now and the end of the year as well, and someone's going to drop points in that one. But, that's the MLS. You look out of it, you pick up 7 of 9 points in a week, and look at this now. You have Philadelphia and Toronto within striking distance.
And you have a game in hand on Toronto as well, which is
And a game in hand on Toronto.
You have to convert on that game in hand, but it's still there. And Toronto's playing Chicago on the road, I think, on Saturday. So Toronto on the road, again, is any team on the road. It's never easy. It's never fun. And Chicago are in a really bad spot, but they're not technically out. And I think they realize that this is their last throw of the dice. If they lose this game, I don't know if they're mathematically eliminated, but they are essentially out. I think that they're going to go at it with everything they can. And if Toronto manages to drop points or even lose and Montreal picks up a win against San Jose, then they leapfrog Toronto with a game in hand on top of that. So
look, and there's several other things that we could talk about, like one of which is, I don't know what in the world Sanusi did wrong to never get in, but at the same time, it's not the time or place. They picked up 7 of 9 points in the past week. They're within striking distance once again of Philadelphia, Toronto for a play-in. So maybe we can hold on to that conversation for another day. But right now, this is pretty much as good as it has been for CF Montreal, maybe with the exception of the start of the season, couple of games. This is the best it's been, right? This was quite the week.
Oh, yeah. It honestly could not have gone better, I think. You take out maybe the first 20 minutes of the New England game, and it was a perfect week. So, you know what? Chapeau to Laurent Courtois, the staff, the team. They bounced back in a major way. They answered the bell, essentially. You lose 9-1 over 2 games, you're down for the count. You get back up and you answer the bell and you deliver. So this is something that I think a lot of Montreal fans, with granted some earned cynicism, this isn't, irrational cynicism, but they proved a lot of fans wrong as well. And I think that's going to go a long way in making sure the stadium is full for the last 2. If there's 2 home games left, the last 2 home games of the season, I think they went a long way in ensuring that that's going to be full because, I mean, hey, who wouldn't want to see this team make the playoffs?
Oh, yeah, the ambiance.
A ragtag group of misfits and making it work.
1 or 2 more quotes before we end it here. One, Martinez went out of his way to say that Saliba is amazing, which is really, really good for him. You always like to hear a veteran, a former star in the league say that about you. I'm sure that they'll take those that'll make some noise somewhere. The other thing is when I asked Courtois what the turnaround was for Saliba, the turning point, because he's really, really since that goal. And he said the only thing that he asked Saliba in his conversation with him was he asked Saliba to play a little bit more like Piet, and he asked Piet to play a little bit more like Saliba. So I would imagine that he asked Piet would he ask him to
get forward,
get more involved, get more forward. And I would imagine that he asked Piet to get a little bit more physical and to win a little bit more of his battles. I mean, that's what I could decipher out of. Is there anything else you could decipher?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look back to especially the second half against Charlotte specifically, when Montreal had that really rough start, after conceding at the end of the first half, you're up 2-1 and you have a very poor start. Who pulled them out of that rut was Samuel Piet. He's the one that took it upon himself to say, no, we got to get out of this block and start playing forward and put them on the back foot a little bit. And his playing forward was excellent. And it's exactly what Jesse Marsh asked of him if he wants to come back to the national team, right? That's the kind of thing that, you need more Saliba in your game. It's that willingness and ability to go forward because he can. He's a very, very reliable pivot when it comes to keeping the ball and distributing with the defense. But at some point you have to turn. Right. Yes. You don't have Wanyama on the field with you. You don't have that metronome on the field with you. You need to be the one that's going to turn and kind of galvanize the attack. And, Saliba does have a good ball winning quality about him. But if you're looking at pure ball winners in the midfield, there's very few in MLS that can do it like Samuel Piet. So that's a really good person to learn from.
He is a good ball winner. I think
going to help round out his game.
Yeah, I think Elias. He's better than a lot of people give him credit for. Like, I understand that, if you're expecting feet, if you're expecting footwork, and you're expecting dribbling, and you're expecting to move forward, you're probably not going to get that. But you're going to get breaking up plays. Mm-hmm. You're going to get winning balls. You're going to get ability to make touches with passes on one touch. You're going to get having the ability to slow down a game. These are all the things that he definitely can do. And I think that he's very, very good at those things that he can do. And look, there's maybe some things that he can't do or he can't do as well. But at that point, I mean, if he would have been able to do that too, he's going to end up being a perfect player. And no one's a perfect player. Everyone's got things that they do really well, and everyone's got things that they don't do as well. But interesting to hear Courtois say, I asked Saliba to play a little bit more like Bittt, and Bittt to play a little bit more like Saliba. Anyway, next up are the San Jose Earthquakes. We had a chance to see Vasily Krementzidis was at the game. He's pretty much always at the games, to tell you the truth. And, of course, he is now with the San Jose Earthquakes after leaving CF Montreal a couple of months back. So it's his Earthquakes who are struggling. They even had one of their players call out what's going on right now, saying that it's not good. Look, it should be 3 points for CF Montreal, but as you know, and one of the podcasts you're on, the ball, as they say, is round. So we'll see what happens. I look forward to podcasting again in a couple of days. We'll see what comes out of practice this week. And follow us on our Twitter handle at SickPod, CFMTL. Same thing for our Instagram. And subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's absolutely free to do so. It's the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Special thanks to our partners. Energy Transportation Group is one. Tibi is another. And Playground is another. And special thanks to you, Elias Grigoriadis, again, for all your contributions. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, I'm Marinaro. Up next for CF Montreal, San Jose Earthquakes in Montreal on Saturday night, with CF Montreal currently 10th place, just 2 points behind Philly and a couple of points behind Toronto as well, with a game in hand. Everything is possible, as they say. Bye for now.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play,